This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
You ever sit through a courtroom moment that feels like it rewired your brain a little? Yeah. That was Alivea Goncalves. Of all the raw, emotional haymakers thrown during the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger, hers wasn't just a punch. It was a precision strike, straight to the gut. And in this episode, we're not just rehashing her words, we're unpacking what it means when a victim's family takes the power back, and what kind of mind they were staring down when they did. Now, if you've been following this case since the beginning, you know there's been no shortage of speculation, emotion, and just flat-out rage, justified rage, over the brutality of the Idaho student murders. But the sentencing brought us something different. It brought us face-to-face with a question we rarely get to answer in true crime. What happens when the accused just finally is there, out in front of us? No more hiding behind legal strategy, or procedural stall tactics, or stargazing. And right there with us, watching every twitch of Bryan Kohberger's face, was defense attorney Bob Motta, host of the podcast Defense Diaries, son of the man who defended John Wayne Gacy, and one of the sharpest legal minds out there when it comes to dissecting the psychology of evil. Bob saw it all too, watched Kohberger sit through victim impact statements like a stone gargoyle. And in this conversation, we're going to cut past the sentiment and hit at something far darker, the anatomy of a broken mind. We're going to dive into what Bob saw in Kohberger's body language, the legal significance of victim impact rules across states, and why, even when the facts are brutal and the outcome is final, people still beg for a trial. Spoiler, it's not about the verdict, it's about the why, the thing that never actually comes. I'm about to just break down Kohberger's courtroom behavior. He brings in chilling comparisons, like what it was like when his own father sat down with John Wayne Gacy days before execution. What do these men have in common? What is it we keep hoping to find inside the void? So with all that in mind, when Alivea stood up and addressed him directly, unflinching, unsparing, what did that moment actually do to him? Let's find out.
Oh, you couldn't have thrown me a bigger, fatter softball. It was clearly Alivea Goncalves, man.
Yeah.
Her thing blew me away, and it was like you're coming out of kind of the devastating victim impact statements from Dylan and Bethany by proxy. She had a friend read hers, and then you had Ben Mogan. And those are all kind of like the heartfelt one. And then Steve got up there and he really restrained himself a lot more than I thought he would,
I was wondering who's going to pick the podium up at some point and toss it back.
I mean, for sure. But Alivea just blew me away.
Yeah.
Just absolutely blew me away. She took back all the power.
Yeah.
It was like that thing where, and frankly, depending on the statute, on what state you're in with regard to victim impact statements, they limit what you can discuss, like what you can talk about. If you're going to be talking about the facts of the case, they typically won't allow it. A lot of times they don't allow you to address the defendant. That's why you'll see when people kind of get highly emotional in the middle of a victim impact statement, you see those clips of people screaming at the defendant and, I want to fucking kill you, shit like that.
Yeah.
They usually shut that down. But I mean, her entire thing was written to address him. So, but Hitler gave wide berth, man. And I was here for it. I thought it was incredibly powerful. I thought it was beautifully written in terms of taking all the power back, not giving this guy everything that those of us who firmly believe and know that he's the guy who did this, not giving him what he wanted and just throwing it right back in his face and calling him out for the coward and loser that he is. I loved it. I really did. I thought it was very powerful.
I think everybody certainly, delivered what they wanted to deliver in their own way. And I
Yep.
think that's good. I agree, though. I think there was a certain way to reach him, and make an impact with him. Unfortunately, talking to him in terms of emotion as a human being, I don't think is it, of the loss. He almost seemed to relish in some of it at the beginning. What was your reaction at the beginning when you saw him sitting there? He's kind of bouncing. He's a little comfortable in his chair there, kind of smiling a bit. I don't know. I don't know if it's just my preconceived notion of the guy, but it felt like he was enjoying it at the beginning when everyone was talking about how painful everything was to them. Only did it seem that his mood or his demeanor changed a little bit is when Alivea got up there and Steve first, really, and just started going at him at what really mattered to him deep down.
Yeah. No, I don't know that he was. I mean, you'd have to think that, yeah, he was relishing it to
Mhm.
some extent. I think that he was able to kind of just mask, and whatever he was feeling internally. And, I mean, the reality is these kind of people are dead inside,
Yeah.
like they don't feel things like we feel. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. I mean, whatever joy he may have been deriving from hearing about their suffering, um, it's going to be limited facially in terms of what we're seeing to what his body allows him to do. Because I mean, the guy just doesn't feel the way that we feel.
Yeah.
He doesn't experience joy and pain the way that normal people do. And that's pretty safe to say that a lot of these guys that do this kind of shit are all kind of built the same way. They're missing that one key component of humanity that the rest of us seem to have.
Mhm.
And you're just watching, and it's like my chat was like going crazy. It's like, oh, look, it's like observing him. It's like
Mhm.
we all want to try to understand why.
I know.
We all
Yeah.
want to try to get to the meat of it in terms of what makes this guy tick, and we're never going to get those answers.
Yeah.
This guy is never going to. It's like all the people in my chat that are siding with Steve in the sense that the state took the coward's way out here by not going to trial and not putting it all out there and making this guy sit through a trial. This guy wouldn't have given a shit.
Yeah.
He would have sat there like the stone golem that he is, emotionless, remorseless, and he was never getting on the stand with some kind of like. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I don't know what people expect in these types of cases where the people that do the unthinkable then stand mute. It's like
Mhm.
you're never going to get truths from them.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about on my channel, like I'm sure that some of the listeners know my father represented John Wayne Gacy
Mhm.
back in 1980. And then, 14 years later, the guy's like on the doorstep of, getting strapped to the gurney. I think it was a month before that
Mhm.
or a couple months before. And he finally does this lengthy interview and he walks in with these big binders and he's flipping, and they're asking questions about the murders. And this guy's like he's about to be put to death and he's still denying that he did shit.
Yeah.
It's like those guys, it's like, and that guy had 27 kids buried in his crawl space. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like these people just don't function the way that we do. And I know
Mhm.
it's impossible for us as human beings that do function normally and feel things for us to contemplate and understand. But I mean, some people are just broken.
Yeah.
Like this guy is just missing key components that the rest of us have. And, I mean, I think we talked about this the last time we were on, man, and I think it was right around when we heard there was gonna be a plea.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, when you see these victim impact statements, like, after a plea and you see what Dylan Mortensen would have been like on the stand,
Yeah.
it gives you just an inkling of all the pain that was spared for all of these people that the state would have had to have put up for proof of life. Bethany and Dylan who were in that house, everybody that was affected, all of those witnesses, and that would have been such a hard, painful thing to do. And you're sparing them that. by not going to trial. And this guy, like people not being satisfied that this guy admitted that he did these things. It's hard for me to understand. I mean, because I always go back to, I think people just want to know why. That's why they want the trial. They want to try to understand why.
And
You don't get those
and
answers.
you're never there. And even if you have the why it's not like you're going to be like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Right.
Like, oh, I get it. Oh, whatever it is just him expressing his twisted, messed up way of thinking and how he justified it in his mind. And does it really matter at the end of the day? Because the why doesn't ever make sense. There will be nothing that makes sense in this case for the why. It's not like a case where well, I had to do this to stop somebody from getting hit by a train, like something where there's like a why for something horrible that happened that could make some sense. This is not that. This is
not that.
No, this is a broken brain, and you're never going to get a why other than an evil person got close to your kids. And that's
100%.
why they died. Yeah.
Exactly. There is no rationale behind it. There's nothing that will ever make sense to anybody like that. And we just started covering a case about this Aaron Spencer case down in Arkansas, where that's a case where you understand why. That case, real briefly, is you have a father whose daughter, who was 13 at the time, had been sexually abused several times by this 67-year-old guy. This guy was charged with 43 counts of aggravated sexual assault, cyber stalking, all the things, and he got a very low bond. This guy got he had to post $5,000 with 43 heavy duty pending counts. And he's out and about in this small area down in Arkansas, around Cabot, Arkansas. And this guy somehow lures that very girl, his victim, out into his truck. The family is woken up by the dog barking. The dad, Aaron, goes into his daughter's bedroom. She's not there. They're freaking out. They're like, where, they're screaming throughout the house. He jumps in his truck and he finds this guy driving with his daughter in the truck with him. He runs him off the road. He's screaming at him to let my fucking daughter out of that truck right now. And this guy gets out and he's screaming back at him. They're approaching one another. This guy lunges at him and he puts 7 shots right into the guy, kills him dead.
Yeah.
And they charge this guy with second-degree murder, this father, who the system failed.
Yeah.
Like, that guy should not have been a $5,000 bond on that kind of case is unthinkable.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so, I mean, in that kind of case,
there's the why.
There's the why.
Yeah.
And it's going to be up to be. And this wasn't some vigilanteism.
No.
This wasn't that guy had been out for 3 months. If he was a vigilante, he would have done what Gary Pluchet had done and hidden by a phone bank and turned around when he's walking cuffed. That's vigilanteism. This is a guy who was trying to save his daughter and who ultimately did save his daughter. So in those kind of cases, you're going to get a why.
Sure.
Guys like this who are just fundamentally broken. In what way, we have no idea. That's what the Kathleen Ramslands of the world try to figure out.
Yeah, no, exactly. Sure, here's the thing. We can analyze courtroom psychology all day, zoom in on everybody's facial impressions and expressions, the posture, their subtle shifts, the demeanor, like they're tea leaves. When Bryan flinches here, it means this. But at the end of the day, the real horror in cases like Bryan Kohberger's isn't what we see. It's in what we'll never get. The gaping silence here, the why is supposed to live. And Bob Motta didn't just lay it out. He dug right into what we're looking at here. The light that may exist out there beyond Bryan Kohberger. It helped us sit with it, helped us try to get a better perspective on it's kind of the facts. This is what happened. Here's how it was dealt with. And here's the outcome. Cause and effect. especially when you're dealing with a broken mind. Because when we talk about men like Kohberger or Gacy and any of the others whose names linger like a bad taste in true crime history, we're not dealing with mysteries. We're dealing with absences of remorse, absences of empathy, absences of functioning humanity. And it messes with us because we keep thinking, if we just listen longer, press harder, ask the right questions, process it this way or that way, maybe the monster will blink. Maybe the void will speak. Maybe we'll get something that's, oh, maybe it's not such a monster. Because we don't want to believe that people like this out there actually exist. But those monsters don't blink. Sometimes they speak. Can you believe what the monster says? Bob nailed here, and it's something a lot of legal commentary misses, is that closure doesn't come from understanding them. It comes from reclaiming the narrative, from the moments like Alivea Goncalves, where the power flips, where the silence doesn't win. And yeah, the state took a plea. They skipped the circus of a full trial, and sure, they left some questions unasked. But it also spared a whole community from having to crawl through trauma all over again just to reach the same destination. Bob also gave us a reminder we didn't know we need, I guess. That there are cases where the why actually makes sense. The Aaron Spencer case and that contrast, brutal. One is a father whose daughter was repeatedly failed by a broken system and whose actions came from desperation and protection. The other, a walking shell who got close enough to pure innocence to destroy it. There's a difference, and it matters. We're never going to get confessions and answers from people like Bryan Kohberger, other than the, yeah, I did it. We're not going to get that in-depth answer. We're never going to get that courtroom moment that magically justifies the pain. But what we do get, if we're paying attention, are moments in human clarity in the middle of something inhuman. And when someone helps us decode that, that's where the real story lives. There's a lot more to come as we continue our conversation with Bob, breaking down what went on in that courtroom, what's to come in the case of Bryan Kohberger. Let me know in the comments section what your thoughts are. If you're on YouTube, great, leave them there. If you're not there already, if you're listening to us on the podcast platforms, do check us out on YouTube. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi and you will find us right there. Press subscribe while you're at it. Do appreciate that. Until next time, for all of us here at the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today, I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.